First of all, thank you for being here. It's an exciting time in Pleasantdale. We're really piloting and trying a lot of new things. And first and foremost, I want to thank you for allowing us to kind of use your kids' school experience to try some of these new technologies. We believe that these technologies will enhance learning. We've seen that in the classroom. Our teachers who have worked so hard over the course of the school year have really learned how to use these the Google Apps for Education suite to really improve the learning experience for your kids. One of the things that I want to start off with and highlight is that kids interact with technology in ways that we as adults never have. And I have a little example here. This is my daughter, Ella. Ella is in 7th grade. Ella has, in her school, they are one-to-one with Chromebooks. Ella has this iPad, which her mother and I did not purchase for her, which she won in a contest, which we, for better or worse, she won in a contest, put it that way. And she loves her iPad. And I'm going to show you one of the many ways that Ella interacts with her iPad on a fairly regular basis. And as adults, first of all, I have her full permission to show this, just so you know. It's a rule in our house, we have to have permission. But as adults, this may make you cringe because you could never see yourself, even as a 12-year-old, doing this. But for our kids, this is the way they interact with technology. And I think it underscores the importance of teaching kids to responsibly use technology. So let's let Ella take it away here. What she was doing is she's using an app called Musical.ly, and she was making it's a video production app that plays a song, and you lip sync to it, and then when you play the song, it looks like you're singing the song. And she uses this Musical.ly app constantly, and makes Musical.lys and uploads them in a closed environment and all of that. But again, as adults, we see this, and as a 12-year-old, could you ever, I didn't want to go to the mall, and see other people, let alone put myself out there like that. And part of the responsibility that we have as parents, and part of the responsibility that we have as a school, is to help kids learn how to interact with these types of technologies and other technologies in a responsible manner. So in order to do that, you have to give them exposure to these devices, you have to give them exposure to these tools, and again, teach them to use them responsibly. So just a little personal example of kind of how kids are using these devices on a daily basis. Tonight, we're excited to tell you about more about Google Apps for Education. And over the course of the year, in 4th and 5th grade, we have been piloting this tool. And you may have seen your kids coming home and using the Google Docs or creating Google Sheets, spreadsheet version, or slides or presentation. Your kids may have taught you something about these new tools and kind of helped the kids ought to know more than the adults, but help you to figure out how you can use them as well. Tonight our 4th and 5th grade teachers are going to break up here in a second and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Google Classroom, Google Sheets, Google Docs, the entire Drive suite, how the kids organize the Drive, and how they're using these devices or how they're using these tools in classrooms every day.
Here so that you guys can play around a little bit more. So you had the Google Classroom experience. Now we're going to kind of help you understand where their work is being saved, where it's going, what's happening with that. How do they do that? So a couple questions that we hear often are about Chrome and Google. I mean, Chrome is Google's kind of web browser like Internet Explorer. And no, you don't need to have that in order to access it. You can do it from Internet Explorer or any of the other ones. You just go to Google like normal and sign in, to search for something in Google. And then you can access it on any browser. Chrome has some really big benefits for the students and maybe for the adults if I've never used Chrome. But it has a way of saving your bookmarks. You know how if you're on one computer on Internet Explorer, you go to another one, your bookmarks aren't there. Chrome, they are saved. So the kids, if they have any bookmarks saved at school and they access Chrome at home, then they would be able to see the same bookmarks, which is really nice. for them. And some of the settings are then all the same. Google Drive is where they organize all their files, they create files, they upload files. Basically, it's replaced the need for a jump drive or some other way of saving their files. They're not saving it to their computer and then saying, oh, I didn't save it to my jump drive and now I don't have it. It's always accessible on any internet-capable device. So there's really like that no excuse kind of thing.
So what we're using it for, what they'll be using it for throughout Pleasantdale, is Docs, which is basically a replacement to some extent for Word or Pages. Slides, very similar to PowerPoint and Keynote. Sheets, which looks like it's, spreadsheets, Excel, and Numbers. Forms, which they're using more in terms of responding at this point. Perhaps they will be creating their own forms at some point, but it's a great way for them to, I don't know if you've seen forms, but for us to collect data, they can answer questions, we can sort it. Whole bunch of different things they can do with forms, drawing, and then most importantly, they were able to collaborate. I can look at documents that they've submitted. They can, comment on peers' documents with some obvious guidelines, but it's been a great tool for us to use this year.
So here's a screenshot of my Google Drive. You'll notice there's lots of folders. I have it as organized as I can right now. I do have some files at the bottom there that are not organized, but they will be when I have a few minutes. But I kind of try to keep it as organized. So here's what their Google Drive could look like, but here's probably what theirs looks like. Just a whole bunch of files listed there. Probably some that are, when you log in, if you have already, probably a lot of untitled documents, things like that they haven't done anything with. So they could also view it, and I do want to show you, when you log in, your students may more so look like this, with little squares where everything is. So just so you're aware, there's going to be folders and little squares. It's just depending on the student's preference. I prefer a list. And to go right to that, how can you support your students when they're using Google Apps for Education? One of the biggest things is just to help them stay organized, just like you do with their folders. Maybe if you check that, or if you go through and you're like, okay, empty out your book bag and let's make sure it's clean and organized. Same thing with their Google Drive. Have them log in, have them show it to you. Hey, you have a bunch of untitled documents. Maybe you should label them or delete them if they're not needed, just like you would with anything else. And that's probably the easiest way to help them, because again, you don't have to do it. You just have to be like, hey, show me this, and encourage them just to stay on top of it. They can have a folder for science, a folder for language arts, and keep everything in the same folder so that it doesn't get lost. Creating and sharing. You can.
So again, they can work with peers. They can share their documents with peers, even if it's an informal thing. They just want to share it because they really think they did a good job. That's great. They can do this so easily on Google. Teacher feedback is very simple. We just started working with an extension called Kaizena Shortcut, which allows us to give feedback to the students just by speaking into the computer. Who'd have thought, huh? But it's really a great tool. And then also the revision history is there for them to see, which is great. It's there for us to see as well. We've made a whole bunch of suggestions. Did they really do anything, or did they just delete all the comments? We could define that out. All right, I changed that. Well, we can actually now check to see if they really did. And then autosave, which I think is just an amazing thing, because I can't believe how many times students have been able to say, I thought I saved it. This time it just saves, and that is really huge. Honestly, that makes the whole product worth it for me.
Saves a lot of time. And something to think about is Google Drive can sort of be used as like their portfolio. I mean, the jump drives were great for a little bit of a need, but those are almost, they break easily, they get lost. I mean, you find those all over your house, probably mine, if there's tons of drawers, I have no idea what's on them. This is a way that they could be organizing their stuff, and if they're going to have it in 6th grade, same login, 7th grade, 8th grade, and then they can kind of go through and maybe each year, eliminate some things or organize it into like, this is the one I really want to keep, this is a really good project I did, and at the end of 8th grade, even though their account eventually will go away, this is something that they could download to their own computer. They could save it to share it to their own personal Google Drive if they have that. By the time they're in 8th grade, they might. So that's just something to think about as a long-term kind of process. All right, we're going to let you guys kind of get in and do something in theirs, just so you can kind of see what's happening. So make sure you're logged into the student account. If you're on a wireless device, if you need help, or if you're on a laptop, let us know. And you're going to want to go to the Google Drive first, and then we can create a new document. So both of those things can be achieved from that little waffle icon, which is more on the top right of your screen. Or you could, once you're in Google Drive, you can create a new document another way. We're going to walk around and help you now kind of get logged in. Title it down. Once you get a new doc open, make sure you title it. You'll see at the upper left side it says like Untitled Document. And you want to label that Google Parent Night. And then you can start writing a little short letter saying, hey, I'm visiting your drive.
Amy Paul, many of you know me. If you don't know me, I teach fourth grade across the hall from Mrs. Bedell. Today's presentation, we're going to work on showing you what Classroom looks like. Many of your students use Classroom as a way to gain access to homework, announcements. We, a lot of times, use it as a way to connect them to the internet or to a video clip or a website we want them to visit. So this is an example of the students using Classroom. We wanted to make sure that you saw what the kids are actually doing with Classroom instead of us just showing it to you. Let's go ahead and get your computers out and open up to Google Classroom and do our root work. We're going to do root work this morning, or this afternoon right now. Make sure when you go into your Google Drive and you go into Classroom, you go into LA. Your LA Classroom, please. So when you are on the screen of your kids' Google Classroom, hopefully all of you are seeing this when you log on. What you will see is any class that your student is currently registered for. So for this student, they were registered in my math. This is just a screenshot of my classes. But they also could have band on there if they're in band for fourth grade. Mr. Woolman has them on there. He has them creating videos to send to show that they're practicing their instruments. So this is what you're going to see. You'll see the different classrooms that they can go into. The students know that they can toggle back and forth between these classrooms depending on what they need to see and how they need to see it. So and that's right up here is where it says classrooms, and when you get into one classroom, you can toggle back and forth, like I said, to different classrooms. So then once your child enters the Google Classroom, they're able to see different things. It could be an assignment. It could be just a question I want them to answer, like you had seen with their analogy. And it could be an announcement. Like today, you're going to have a Padlet that you need to do. A Padlet's just an electronic sticky board. I use it a lot to just get the students to actually use their camera on their device, use the camera on their device at home, put it up there, and take the learning from the classroom out to the real world and be able to show it back to their other students. If your child is in a 5th grade classroom, remember to check their calendars for assignments as well. Many times what they have is they have calendars, and inside that Google Calendar, they have all of their assignments listed because 5th grade transfers classes so many times, there's different places that they're going to need to look at for their assignments. For 4th grade, we still very much rely on the assignment notebook, and they know if there's an assignment that is on their Google Classroom that they need to access. Such as an example, we're reading Writing Freedom. My students all have their student packet on their Google Classroom in their Drive. They know to go back every night and re-access it to be able to add to it. So this is what they'll see. This is just an example of completing an assignment, okay, for creating your new conversation with your mom. And what this is my screen, so it shows me that 17 students are done and 1 is not done. And it gives me a really quick picture of why is that one student not done? Did they forget to turn it in? Did they forget to do it? And it gives me a chance to really be accountable really quickly, opposed to, can I see it? Can I see it? Can I see it? And the other great thing is it allows us, if I want to access this at home, I can sit there, I can comment, I can grade, I can look at all those things that they need to, actually right there on the cloud-based programming of the class.
If you click on that 17, you can see a little window of every single paper. So you can also see if they've only written 2 sentences, or if they have a full paragraph, that
This is the screen that your student will see when they're opening an assignment. So they went from their home page where it said they had an assignment, they could have announcements, they could have, and it just lists everything that they had to do. And it kind of just puts it in order so they can actually scroll through if they need to get to someplace else. Once they open their assignment, this is the screen they're going to see. So they're going to see that they have instructions of what they need to do, who's assigned it, and then it would say, this is the document. Because many times what we're doing is we'll create a document in Google Docs and then just attach it into an assignment. So what happens is they click on it, it flies to our Google Doc where I've made a copy for every student. When they pull it up, it'll have the assignment name and their name after it. So they don't even have to remember to name it, it's already been named for them, it's already all ready for them. So they just click on it and they can start right away. And once we have given it to them, it then stays in their Google Drive as well. Even after they turned it in, they still have a copy of it in their Google Drive. So that's why we always tell our 4th grade parents, you should really go on and check this out because you'll be able to see what they're writing, what they're answering, how they're doing, because there's a lot of times that we don't send those papers back home. You know, if a lot of writing activities happen, I'm not sending them back home with, you know, red or green written all over them. What's great about this, and I know Mrs. Liddell feels the same way, I can edit right there in their document. All their comments, or all my comments are on the side, all my suggestions are on the side, their grades are right there. So it's kind of nice because it's all right there, and it's all right there for you guys to be able to see too, because I know there's been times that you go into the grade book and you're like, well, where did that writing paper come from? Like, how did they get that grade? I never saw a writing paper. Now you can see everything because it's in your drive. Most things. Most things, if they're assigned through a drive.
Still use paper pencil once in a while.
Once in a while. This is again what the screen looks like for an announcement. Same kind of screen. Now it's looking at what an announcement might look like. And then the question is like, how can you support your child? Because that's really important. The reason you're here is because you want to know what they're seeing, but how can you support them with all this information? What can you do? Well, the big thing is just ask them to check their classroom accounts daily, especially with 5th grade, because it sounds like that is their key mode of assigning homework for 5th grade. Ask them to see it, because we know how they get after those assignment notebooks. They don't like to write them anymore, and their assignments are right there. So if you're curious about if they're getting their assignments done, ask them to see them. Feel free to browse their classrooms. We say it's a museum, not a playground, so please don't go on there and edit their stuff, but look at it. Provide time and access to use a device. We know how hard it is. We understand that, you know what, it's a family computer, but you're going to have to start looking at it as a way to provide some time to use the device that they might have to need. And then check with your students to see what they're doing in class using their Google Classroom or another Google App version.